Hi, I'm Abdulazim, one of the co-founders here at Taffy, and thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to walk you through how Taffy is reimagining early stage hiring. Now, at Taffy, we believe resumes and cover letters only tell part of the story. Traditional ATS tools often flatten candidates into keywords, and automated screens tend to prioritize speed over substance. That means companies miss out on great people, and candidates just end up feeling like another number. We flip that script. At Taffy, we use real time AI powered video interviews to unlock what really matters early on: personality, communication, and potential. Candidates can complete interviews anytime, 24/7 on their schedule, and hiring teams get structured, shareable insights without being glued to a calendar. The result: a richer, more complete picture of every applicant, not just what fits on a one page resume. Taffy gives people the chance to express who they are and gives companies the context to make smarter, more confident decisions. Let's dive into some of our features today. Okay, so the first feature we're going to cover today is interview flows. This is our fully customizable framework that lets you shape every step of an interview. So, from the opening greeting to having dynamic branching paths that allow you to ask a different line of questioning based on the candidate's responses. So, I'm going to sort of cover this feature by configuring our own interview flow for a Python developer intern role. And we're going to walk through some of these concepts as I configure this flow. So, getting started with the two fundamental nodes that are present in every flow, which is the start and conclusion node. The start node obviously handles starting the interview. This is just where the AI agent asks the interviewee if they're ready to begin. And of course, the conclusion node, which is over here at the very end of the flow, is used to end the interview. And this can be used under different circumstances. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later. Of course, we have question nodes, which are points where the AI agent is tasked with asking the interviewee a specific question. And you can mark these questions as either required or optional. In this case here, since we're asking the user or the applicant, sorry, if they have experience with using Python as an academic project, this is either going to be a yes or a no question. So, of course, we're going to require it to have an answer. Naturally, this leads us to using a branching node, since depending on the user's answer, we want to ask different types of questions. So in this example here, if the user does have experience using Python, we're going to ask them about what Python libraries that they're most comfortable with and why they're most comfortable with them. Of course, if they're not that experienced with Python, we could change our line of questioning to maybe focusing on what interests them in learning about Python and what steps they've taken to start to learn it, right? Of course, we can then join our branches back into one question. So regardless of where we branched off, we can always come back and join at one node. And this node here focuses on asking the applicant if they're able to relocate to Boston, Massachusetts. Again, we've set up another branching node here. So if they are able to relocate, we could ask how soon they could relocate. And if they aren't able to relocate, then we'd end the interview right away. So without further ado, let's actually switch over to the other perspective and take this interview as an applicant. So now we're signed in as an applicant. You can see here we're currently in the applicant dashboard. Now this is where we're going to be able to see the jobs that we've applied for and also where we'll be able to take the interview for those jobs. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hi there, my name is Rob, and I'm a technical recruiter here at Acme Corp. I'll be conducting your interview today for the Python developer intern position. Before we begin, can you please let me know if you're ready to start the interview? If you need a moment or have decided to reschedule, just let me know. Otherwise, just say yes or start when you're good to go.
Hi, Rob. How's it going? Yeah, no, I'm ready to get started.
Great. Thanks for letting me know you're ready. Let's get started. Have you used Python in a personal or academic project before? I'd love to hear a little about your experience.
Absolutely. I've actually used Python in numerous academic projects before, and I've done some personal projects with Python as well as some freelance work using Python as well.
That's great to hear that you have diverse experience with Python. Could you provide more specific details about one or two of these academic, personal, or freelance Python projects? I'm interested in understanding what the projects involved and what your role was in them.
Of course. So actually, I'll talk to you about the most recent freelance project that I did. So I had a client who was a small eco farm owner, and he had a bunch of pre-existing sensors that he had installed across his farm to monitor crops and things like that. And the issue was that he was getting all this raw data that he just didn't know what to do with. So I was tasked with essentially creating some sort of dashboard that could um, ingest that information and process it for him, and then display it for him in a nice, clean dashboard for him to actually see for himself.
Thanks for sharing that project. Sounds like a really practical use of Python. Building on that experience, can you tell me which Python libraries or tools you're most comfortable working with and why?
Of course. So in this specific case, what I ended up working with was pandas to handle the data wrangling and manage the raw data. So since the farm sensors exported data as CSVs, I wrote a script that used pandas to essentially load the data, clean out any missing values, parse the timestamps, and then group the data by week so that I could spot trends. And then once I cleaned and summarized the data, I moved on to using matplotlib to visualize it. I generated time series plots for things like soil moisture and even highlighted anomalies like low days of humidity. And then these plots were then saved as images so that they could be served later in the web app. Of course, for the web app component, I used Flask to create a lightweight web dashboard. And it had a simple homepage with the plots and then a page where you could upload the raw data. And essentially, every time the client wanted to see their data visualized, all they'd need to do was upload the CSV. The script would get to work with parsing and analyzing their data, and then visualizing it in the dashboard would be the last step. So those are the libraries I'm quite comfortable with.
Thank you for that detailed answer. It's clear you have solid, hands-on experience with pandas, matplotlib, and Flask, especially for processing, visualizing, and delivering data-driven solutions. That aligns really well with what we look for in Python projects. Let's move on to the next area of discussion. Can you share an instance where you faced a significant challenge while using one of these Python libraries or tools, and how you overcame it?
Absolutely. So one of the times I faced a challenge was actually during an academic project that I was working on. So we were tasked with developing a machine learning model that could predict the temperature in specific cities, given some historical data. So the obstacle that we faced in that situation was that we didn't actually have any data given to us. We had to source our own data. And so we didn't know where to really start. And there wasn't necessarily any websites that provided the data in a clean, parsed, structured format. So I actually had to write a script that used both Beautiful Soup and Pandas to Beautiful Soup was used to actually scrape the websites and collect the data. And then Pandas was used to process the data, clean it, make sure it was in the correct format so that then it could be loaded into a model that could then predict the temperature in those cities. And so we ended up using that script, which was a very efficient way to essentially gather all the data that we needed to train and test our model.
Thanks for sharing that experience with overcoming data collection challenges. It really shows your ability to problem solve with Python tools. Now, shifting gears just a bit, I wanted to let you know that this internship may require some in-person meetings. Are you able to relocate to Boston, Massachusetts for the summer?
Would there be any relocation compensation?
That's a great question. I'm here to learn more about your background and experience, so I don't have details on the role, company, or compensation. A recruiter or hiring manager will be happy to answer any questions you have about relocation support or compensation during your live interview. For now, are you able to relocate to Boston for the summer if needed?
Yes, I'll be able to relocate, no problem.
Thank you for confirming your willingness to relocate. To help with planning, how soon could you relocate to Boston if needed?
I could relocate as soon as tomorrow. It shouldn't be a problem for me at all.
Thank you for letting me know. You've been very flexible, and I appreciate your openness throughout our conversation. That brings us to the end of the interview for today. We'll be reviewing all candidates, and someone from our team will reach out to you soon regarding the next steps in the process. Thank you again for your time and for sharing your experiences with me.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, so now that the interview is wrapped up, Taffy system kicks into analysis mode. So we are evaluating facial expressions, vocal tone, pacing, and language alongside the actual content of each response. And from this, we generate a behavioral profile, an overall fit score, and then a detailed interview summary for your team to analyze. So yeah, let's continue taking a look at some of the features we offer. So all the data that we process in the background essentially becomes even more powerful when you use one of our other features, which is our AI recruiting assistant. So this agent hooks into your interview database, so you can ask complex questions like which candidate mentioned pandas during their interview. So let's actually try that out. Which candidate you mentioned using pandas during their interview, right? As you can see, as soon as we enter our query, our AI agent immediately gets to work and comes back with a response very quickly. So it investigated which candidates mentioned using pandas, and it found that we, the candidate, mentioned using pandas in multiple instances during our interview, and it actually takes out excerpts from the interview. So I did mention during the interview that I used pandas for data wrangling along with NumPy and PyTorch for machine learning tasks. And I also mentioned how important pandas was for pre-processing and wrangling data. And as you can see, the assistant not only returns a clear answer, but also shows the steps and the tool calls that it made in order to fetch that information. And so, yeah, we hope that this gives you a clear look at how Taffy streamlines and enriches every stage of early stage hiring. So from flexible, competency-driven interviews to instant AI-powered insights. Thank you so much for tuning in. With Taffy, finding the right talent is faster, more seamless, and maybe just a little sweeter.